Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the today's side event from the European Union side event organized by the European Economic and Social Committee. My name is Peter Schmidt. I'm the current president of the so-called NUT section, which is the Agricultural, Food Systems and Environmental section of the European Economic and Social Committee. So we would like to talk today with you about food system transformation to support climate ambition, and here especially opportunities for collaborative action. We think it's now time that we go now really into action. So 2 words to the European Economic and Social Committee, because we are here in a global situation. This doesn't exist everywhere. The European Economic and Social Committee is a body in Europe which represents about 90 million civil society citizens. So we are the House of Civil Society, means we represent employers, trade unions and civil society organizations, and we already called years ago for comprehensive and sustainable food systems. We have been the first institution in Europe calling for this, for a change, for a transformation of food systems. And we are happy that we can today discuss with you and with my distinguished guests here in this room. It's not to say in this room, in this arena, in this European wooden built arena. If you could see it, you see we are really in a nice environment. We will hear right now a couple of concrete points how the food system can be transformed into sustainable food production. So for this, and I don't go into all the challenges which we have a lot of challenges. We will hear right now from our keynote speaker and from our panelists the challenges. That's why I'm happy to invite our first keynote speaker for this, Alexandra Nicolacopoulou from the European Commission. And Alexandra is in the lead of the implementation of the Farm to Fork strategy. And we as ESC, we are also on the heart of this development. And we are happy that we can work together with the Commission in order to implement the necessary steps and bringing the reality and the necessities, not only from farmers, but also from other stakeholders, workers, business, into this sector. And that's why the ESC is a very important body in order to implement this. So I don't want to waste too much time, Alexandra. I see that you're online and you can hear us, and would invite you to join us today. Alexandra, please, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning. Just to confirm, you can hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for the very kind invitation. I'm honored to be among the panelists here. I can confirm, Peter, that we have been working together for some years now, and it is always a pleasure to see the engagement and the commitment from you personally, your collaborators, and the European Social Economic Committee in this transition to sustainability. Indeed, I am in charge of Farm to Fork strategy in DG Santé. Many services in the Commission, they are working together on this transition to more sustainable food systems. Our colleagues in DG Agriculture, DG Environment, DG Mare, because here we need to tackle challenges which are multifaceted and they have many consequences on our life. Maybe we can start with my first slide. I don't see my presentation. Yes, voila. So the European Commission and the EU has taken some years ago the decision to lead the transition to sustainable lives, sustainable food systems. Why sustainable food systems? Because they are important driver, but also causes of problems which are related to environment, to climate, to social and economic parts of our lives. So here we have some figures. I will not go through, it's enough to see, but show exactly the dramatic, I would say, situation that we face today. The Farm to Fork strategy aims actually to ensure that we move towards a neutral or positive environmental impact of the food production. What does it mean? We need to preserve and restore the land and sea-based resources, to mitigate climate change and adapt to its impact, to protect our land, our soil, water, air, plant, but also to reverse the biodiversity loss. Next slide, please. The European Commission has adopted this Farm to Fork strategy that I have mentioned, which contains many actions and announces a mixture, I would say, of interventions, both of binding nature with legislation, but also with voluntary measures, soft measures. One of those that I would like to share with you today is the experience that we had in the EU with the preparation and agreement on a code of conduct on responsible food business and marketing practices. This code of conduct, which is a voluntary instrument, was the result of intense and speedy collaboration, which shows also the fact that all stakeholders realize the urgency to act between the Commission, again, several services of the Commission, and starting with the middle part of the chain, but also embracing primary production and also civil society, academics, international organizations. And all these have led to the adoption of this code of conduct. What does it mean? What is also very interesting to mention this example is that we have at the same time the associations, umbrella associations, which are part and they have signed this code, but also individual companies. I would really invite and encourage you to see the structure and also the design of this code, because it is a very good example of collaborative action and partnerships. The objectives in the code, there are many. They concern different dimensions of sustainability, and climate neutral food chain by 2050 is one of those objectives. The target is to reduce net emissions from the own operations and contribute to a 55% greenhouse gas emissions reduction target in the EU food chain by 2030. We have today 129 signatories, and this happened in 1 year. What is very important is also to invite and encourage SMEs, because certainly it is very encouraging to see many multinational companies engaging and signing this code. But in order to have a critical mass, we also need to have SMEs with us. And this is something that we try to do to support and to provide training and other tools that can get SMEs in these voluntary commitments. Next slide, please. So besides the voluntary actions, that's why I mentioned the mixture of instruments, there is a need for systemic changes. Systemic changes means that we need a paradigm shift. How do we do that? This is not something that can be done by individual and piecemeal approach. So it is very important, and it is belief of the European Commission that we need a framework law on sustainable food systems. This is a new legislation that we are preparing. It is very complex, very challenging. We plan to adopt this proposal in September this year. But we need to take time, we need interaction with many stakeholders, and the aim is to provide the foundations for the development of future legislation, future policy that will mainstream and focus on sustainability. It is very important to provide for definitions, for general principles and requirements, but also a frame to engage with all food system actors, be it public authorities, be it private businesses, and we need a structure for this because it is clear that the results that we try to achieve in the area of sustainability, they cannot be achieved only by action by the EU. We need member states, we need regions, local authorities, and all stakeholders, including citizens. So provisions on the governance, on a dialogue between all food system actors at all levels would be part of this new initiative. Next slide, please. I would like to say a few words about food loss and waste, because this is key to achieve a sustainable food system. Sorry, I see my battery has a problem. If you allow me just a minute to be sure. It's fine, it's fine. Sorry for this. Here in the we see the project Drawdown, which is a non-profit organization, carried out a mapping of the best climate solutions. And I think this is really very interesting and illustrative of the importance of the reduction of food loss and waste. The conclusion was that reducing food waste is one of the most effective solutions to combat climate change. So global food loss and waste accounts for about 8 to 10% of the total anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. So in fact, and this is something that always impressed me, if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emissions emitter after China and the US. So it has a huge environmental impact, and it accounts for about 5% of the total EU greenhouse emissions. So I'm very happy that Food Loss and Waste Pledge for Climate Action is being launched these days in the context of the COP27. I'm also proud to say I believe that this is something that the EU has inspired with all the commitments and all the actions that we have undertaken during the last years and that we continue. And I would like in the next slide to show you what is currently happening and what are the priorities in the EU for the reduction and to accelerate reduction of food waste. We are now preparing a new legislative proposal that would introduce legally binding targets for the reduction of food waste in the EU. We are also thinking and we are preparing new rules to revise the current legislation on date marking, as there is evidence that there is a clear link between food waste and the lack of understanding of date marking by European consumers. At the same time, we need to integrate food loss prevention as part of the relevant EU policies. This is an area where we need more data, more quantification, and more analysis. And finally, very important, and this is, in my experience, one of the best examples also of partnerships and collaboration and exchange of best practices in the EU, we have put in place now for some years, almost 5 years, the platform on food prevention of food waste and food losses, where we have many members, again, from the member states, from international organizations, from businesses and NGOs, who are working closely with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of engagement to achieve tangible results on the ground. So I know that I only had 5 minutes. I think that my next slide is to thank you. And I'm looking forward to the presentations and to the discussion that will follow. And I really believe that it is great that we have today this discussion. I was reading in the Le Monde on the 8th November that the transformation of the food systems was rather neglected in the COP. So I think it is very important to show the engagement and also the urgency to act in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, for your contribution and give us an overview, the state of play of the implementation process of the Farm to Fork. We see the Commission takes that quite seriously to bring this to an success. But since we are civil society as ESC, so we would like to hear, of course, also the stakeholders' point of view and their concrete recommendations. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the representative from the FIO. There seems to have happened something in between that we do not have a second setting the scene keynote speaker. So that's why we have a bit more time. That doesn't necessarily mean for the speakers to stress the time, but that we can discuss this now with our distinguished panelists. So I'm happy that I can invite now Mr. Arnold Püstalisak, President of the World Farmers Organization, WFO, but also, allow me, Arnold, member of our European Economic and Social Committee, and in the section which I'm chairing. I know that your organization has very concrete proposals to make that transition and to bring farmers into the game. And recently you had the chance on your farm to see what concretely farmers are doing in your region. And I'm really happy to listen to you and hear what does the World Farmers Association has concrete proposals in order to lower the carbon footprint of farmers, and how you can contribute to this avenue and to this job. Arnold, you have the floor.
Thank you, Peter. Hello to everybody. I'm very glad to be with you, and I will try to explain you, first of all, what is the World Farmers Organization. It's a young organization. We are 12 years old. We have 80 members from 55 countries. And we are the voice of the farmer at the global level. But you have also some other voice who are more large than us, where sometimes you have a rural network with them. We have not that in our organization, and we want really to be the voice of the farmer and not the voice of the industry also, because sometimes it's also the industry who represent us. Everybody in the world and the farmer, first of all, are totally aware of the situation and the climate change. They are the first victim, and they want to give an answer to this problem. And maybe we can be helped by the actual situation. You know, now everywhere in the world we have three problems. First, COVID, because we are still the victim of COVID. Secondly, conflict. Everybody is victim of conflict. And the third core is cost of production. The cost of production is increasing everywhere. And sometimes, and unfortunately, the market is not always very flexible. You have the increase of the cost of the production, and you have not the increase of the price where the products are sold. But when the European when the Commission in Europe underlined the fact that a quarter of the food we produce finish as loss and waste, it's really a big problem. And on the side of the farmer, how to be more neutral. Yesterday we have had a side event with the World Farmers Organization, and we have had the demonstration of an Australian sheep producer. On his farm, since 2005, is arriving under neutrality. How we have done that? You have multiplied his productivity per 2. He produced twice more sheep, lamb, on the same area than before. And I say on the same area, I can say less than the same area, because he have transformed around 6% of his farm in forestry. And the carbon storage in his forestry, the increase of its productivity at the opposite, you have now is close to be positive in terms of carbon. And it's an example for important farm. But when you do that at the local level, when you increase your efficiency and at the same time you keep biodiversity, you develop forests and you increase biodiversity, you are in the right way for challenging this debate. It's of course more difficult with the smallholder farms who are under pressure, who have the habits of, who have other tradition, who have not the same level of information, who have no means to invest money. The water, the right management of the water resources, the drip system is fundamental and need to be implemented everywhere. Even you, but it needs a lot of invest. And when you are a poor farmer, when your state has not a lot of means, you are expecting solution from elsewhere. And this morning, when I have had the pleasure to take the floor in the name of our organization in front of the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment from different countries at the occasion of the launch of the initiative of the COP, which is called FAST, I have underlined the fact that the important thing is to borrow, to loan money, to give credit to the farmer in the less favored country, and this money need to be grown by the states, because the farmer have few means, and don't take the farmer or constituency from Africa, South America, or South Asia are not asking for more money. They are asking for credit. They are entrepreneurs. They want to reimburse, but sometimes you are never sure. And a good warranty from the states can solve the problem and can put them on the right direction. Sorry, I'm too long.
You're never too long, Arnold. As I know. Thank you very much, Arnold, and for especially last point when you stressed it. You're ready, but farmers need help. They need the support in order to make the transition, and this shouldn't be put on only on farmers. On farmers' responsibility. The responsibility is bigger. You want to say one word?
Yes, the sign of the market. We need the sign of the market. When our cost of production is increasing and our price we sell the products are not increasing, we have no sign of the market at all. And the initiative of the Commission on the labeling is fundamental. If we are more green tomorrow, we will be more expensive. We will be more expensive. And we are already more expensive because in Europe, we are more green than before.
Good, thanks for clarification. Let's stay in farmers' world. You mentioned the small holding farmers. I'm happy to invite now Morgan Audi from European Coordination via Campesina from remote. So I'm keen to get your concrete recommendations for the same subject which Arnold now raised. So what is the small farmers' position in this avenue to more sustainable production for agricultural products? Please, Morgan, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning and thanks a lot for the invitation. La Via Campesina has 200 million small-scale farmers who are members of 180 organizations in Africa, Asia, America, and in Europe. And first, I want to stress that more than 80% of the farmers in the EU are small and medium-scale farmers. At the European level, the European coordination via Campesina is strongly committed to promote changes in the EU politics in order to tackle the climate crisis. Maybe the most important point that I have to say is that the status quo is of no help to small-scale farmers. We are the first one suffering from climate disasters, having our harvest and revenue lost because of the droughts, the floods, and the heat waves. For this reason, we welcome positively the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. Yet what we see is that on one side, it's being strongly attacked by agribusiness corporate sector. And on the other side, no real tool is built to implement the Farm to Fork strategy. For example, for us, it was a strong disappointment that the common agricultural policy was not changed in a direction to really be in line with the Farm to Fork strategy. So as ECVC, we are also critical of the carbon farming proposal from the European Commission, because we believe that grounding all EU climate agricultural strategy on carbon markets has not proven to be efficient in terms of reducing the agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. Also because this carbon market, it gives too much power to those who have already a lot of financial power, while leaving behind those more marginalized people like the small-scale farmers. And in the end, we are also against this because we believe that the job of the farmers is to produce a healthy food for the people, not to sell carbon credits. So as a European coordination via Campesina, our proposal for an agricultural transition to address the systemic climate crisis are based on climate justice and agroecologies. And the very good news is that studies have shown that it is possible to produce enough healthy food for all Europeans while reducing by 40% EU agricultural emissions, getting rid of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, and so drastically improving biodiversity and soil and water quality. But this requires support to farmers committed to agroecology and help to those who have been trapped in an agro-industrial model, because these small-scale farmers, they need to transition towards more sustainable production models. So we have 13 concrete proposals that the EU must implement 13 urgent actions at this crucial crossroads for European agriculture. The first is to guarantee a profound change in European agriculture to respond to the climate emergency, not the status quo. Second is to double the number of farmers in Europe by 2040 by supporting existing farmers, and this means fair prices, fair agricultural prices above the cost of production, and also by setting up 10 million of new farmers in Europe. The third point is to guarantee access to farmland and ensure the generation renewal. The fourth point, promote peasant seed system. Then support and advise and train existing and future farmers towards more sustainable and agricultural practices. The sixth point is to get rid of factory farms within 10 years. Then it is very key to rebalance the presence of livestock farmers in all territories across Europe so that the size of the EU herds matches with the capacity of the land to provide local food for the animals. Then we need to maintain and to enforce the target for reducing synthetic fertilizers by at least half and phasing out pesticides by 2035. Then we need to ensure that healthy food is made affordable through a transition towards territorial food system all across the EU. Then we need to treat technology as a tool, not as an imposition. We need to ban unproven and dangerous technologies such as GMOs, and to stop public subsidies for harmful products and practices. We need to ensure equitable water sharing and encourage water-efficient agricultural practices. We need a 10-year plan to phase out soy and palm oil imports into Europe, because we know that deforestation is dramatic for the climate crisis. And at least but not last, we need public policies to regulate and protect agricultural markets and the right to food. We need people's food sovereignty. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Morgan, for your points. Very precise and clear. And I saw that Alexandra took note of this action plan. Probably we can go into details in another meeting to discuss that. I come now to the third panelist, Enrico Somalia. Enrico is Deputy Secretary General from the European Federation of Food, Agriculture and Tourism, EFAT, from the trade unions. Enrico, you're working for years, I know, because it's my organization, for years in the food and in the agriculture sector. So listening to all of them, do you think, that's my first question to you, that workers' voice is heard in this process? Is there enough involvement of workers' position? And what are your concrete proposals in order to get there what we have been discussing right now? You have the floor, Enrico.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. And thank you to the European Economic and Social Committee, and in particular to you and to the NAT section for organizing this important side event. I think COP is an event the whole world is looking at, and I think it's important for social partners, for civil society organizations to contribute to the discussion, to express their views, and to contribute to the debate about the future of the planet, the future of our jobs and of future generations. EFAT represents the workers and trade unions across the food chain, in agriculture, in food processing, and in the hospitality sector. And my first message, also to reply to your question, is that trade unions in the agro-food sector are looking at the COP with great expectation. We really hope that national governments show real commitments really to the agreed targets. And we are based in Europe, so we are also great supporters of the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. But to answer to your question, well, although we support those ambitious environmental targets, we regret the fact that these policies, at least for the moment, they almost completely lack social consideration. So this is a key shortcomings, and we really hope that in the upcoming legislative proposals, including those that Alexandra had mentioned, we can see a bit more focus on working people. We can see a bit more focus on social sustainability. Sustainability has a 3 dimensions. Not only the economic and the environmental one, but also the social one. And I want to highlight the fact that we are great supporters of these policies, I would say, for 2 main reasons. The first one is that we are fully aware that we are on a dangerous path, and that our sectors are great contributors to climate change, and they are greatly affected by it at the same time. So agriculture and food are part of the solution. And the second reason why we are great supporters of these ambitious environmental policies is because workers across the food chain are among the main victims. This is true for farmers. It is true for small farmers in particular. But let's not forget about workers. Climate change is already having a great impact on working conditions, and the trends are even worse. And when it comes to agriculture and food, climate change means, for example, increased job insecurity. If you think about all the lost working days due to extreme weather events like floods, like fires, or because of soil erosion, because of land degradation, this is already a reality in some parts of the south of Europe. And then let's not forget about the impact on health and safety. Increased temperature have an impact on farm workers. This is translated into dehydration, skin cancer, sunburn, or even death due to stroke. There are workers, farm workers, that have died also in Europe. I think about Camara Fantamadi, a Mali seasonal workers that was picking tomatoes in the south of Italy, in the Apulia region, and died because of a stroke, because he was working in open space in 40-degree heat. So this is already the reality. And the question, therefore, is not if we have to act, Of course, we have to act, and of course, we need ambitious measures. We fully support them. But the question is how we are going to act. And for us, it's clear that if there is a need, but there is certainly a need to be ambitious and to be resolute on these environmental targets. There is a need to even accelerate the green transition, but we also need to ensure that the green transition becomes an opportunity to raise labor standards and not an additional threat. We don't need additional threat. Farm workers, food workers don't need additional threats. They are already facing huge challenges: digitalization, unfair competition. Let's think about COVID-19. So if we want them to support the green transition, then they need to understand that this is a leverage to improve working conditions, to create better jobs, to improve individual and collective labor rights. This is particularly true in sectors like agriculture, which are really extremely precarious. So if they see that the adoption of these ambitious environmental targets are converted into more precarious work, into more threat for their jobs, then we are not going to support it. So this is really my third message. And how do we achieve that? How do we achieve that also these ambitious policies have social consideration in it? I think we need three things. We need to complement the green ambition with just transition measures. And this for us means rigorous socioeconomic impact assessment, really on the potential of job losses for each and every measures, including those that are part of the farm to fork strategy. What does it mean reducing pesticides by 50%? What does it mean in terms of jobs reduction, or maybe in terms of job creation? We can also have positive developments, but they need to be clear. We need resources for the transition. We fully support the fact that farmers need resources. They have to lead the transition, but these resources cannot be there at all costs. Money has to be provided only to those employers that respect workers' rights, and only to those employers that commit to keep employment level. Yeah, and resources can be found by taxing all those actors that in the food chain are making still huge profits, also through food speculation. And then we need the governance of the transition. We need the involvement of social partners at each and every level. The second thing we need are adaptation strategies, because climate change is already there. Therefore, we need compensation for lost working days due to extreme weather events in the agricultural sector. We need longer breaks and prohibition to work during the hottest hours of the day.
Enrico, can you come to an end, please?
Yes. And then the third thing that we need is really that we identify what makes our sectors challenging from an environmental point of view, and also ensuring that these increase labor standard. And to do that, we need to identify the root causes. And this is the concentration of power. This is the need to tackle shareholder value maximization and food speculation, and also to tackle unfair competition across borders. If we are able to deliver on these three priorities, then it means that we will be able to convert nice slogans like the one that nobody has to be left behind into real hope for working people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrico. Quite clear. 3 points, what has to be done in order to come to a just transition. 2 weeks ago, I had 15 young African farmers in the European Economic and Social Committee, and we talked about farm to fork and about what is necessary in order to have a just transition, to have a transformative process in the farming sector. And this was a quite enriching and an interesting debate, because they told me, for us African farmers, we do not know how to apply or to take, all the measures provided by the farm to fork, for instance. So that's why I'm happy that we have Lucy Esipila. You are Policy and Advocacy Officer, Caritas Africa, but you're also a member of the CAN, it's the Climate Action Network. So perhaps you can give us a bit insight. What is your position on this point? Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. So it's really important that we are discussing this issue on sustainable food systems, especially on the Agriculture and Adaptation Day over here at COP. And the global challenges are interconnected. So when the European Union is passing some policies, whether it's about decisions on the EU Global Gateway or the joint EU strategy or the Farm to Fork strategy, they have, in one way or another, they have an impact on Africa. And so I was asked to speak about what are some of the recommendations that we can give in order for us to have a sustainable food system and also a just and sustainable food trade. And one thing, as we are here and we are taking part in climate negotiations, one of the things that we would want to see is food systems integrated within the nationally determined contributions, because agriculture is vulnerable to climate change. In Africa right now, we have heard about the hunger crisis, millions of people going to bed hungry. It is illustrative of the vulnerability of agriculture to climate change, and these two issues have to marry. And they must, and in that way we will get financing for the issues within the food systems and also to address the challenges within the system. And then another thing, I've heard one of the speakers has talked about agroecology, absolutely fantastic points over there about conserving the soil health, issues to do with diversification and also sharing of knowledge. And so one of the ways that the Farm to Fork strategy would be beneficial, especially in the context of Africa, is to support initiatives that will upscale agroecology, because the people who are practicing agroecology are smallholder farmers, but they do not get to participate fairly within trade. And so if we can support initiatives towards that, it would make a difference. Another thing I've seen during the whole of this week, we have been following discussions on Coronivia joint work on agriculture. And it is the one opportunity that we have to ensure that agriculture is captured within the UNFCCC. And it will be very bad if we leave COP without a concrete outcome on the KJWA. So one thing that I would really like to request the EU negotiators, please, it would really be good if you participate in these discussions and push for a concrete outcome so that we have this final text and it translates meaningfully to the smallholder farmers. And lastly, energy and climate, they intersect. So if there is a way we can have investments towards solar, wind, biogas, it would make a difference. And then in terms of justice, in terms of the food that we produce, the fertilizers that we are selling and making their way to Africa, let us pay attention to soil health and issues to do with food systems. And lastly, let us ensure access to finance for smallholder farmers, and one tool could be through the special drawing rights. I saw in the EU strategy, one of the commitments that was within the document was ensuring that members of the EU will be called upon to rechannel some of the special drawing rights, and this could be one of the vehicles that could support the just transition. And then another one would be also addressing issues to do with unfair trade and how it affects Africa. So one of the policies within the EU strategy was to address some of the issues within the WTO. And so if these measures can be taken, it would make a difference for Africa in transforming the global food system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucy. Not only because you have been the only speaker keep the timing, very, very, very polite, but that brings me to close the circle. Arnold started saying that we need support for the farmers, and it is exactly what you're calling for. And you also mentioned the issue on trade, but I'm sure that Joseph will say something in the end. And the ESC, by the way, we made a resolution this year for this COP, where we exactly calling for the points which we heard right now. But looking at the time, it seems that we do not have that much time to have questions and answers, unfortunately. So that's why I would propose to go directly to our keynote listener. Honestly, I didn't know that this exists, keynote listener. I'm very often keynote speaker, but to be a keynote listener is probably quite a harder job to listen just to tell the people what you're thinking about this. I'm happy to have Chantal Clément, Deputy Director from IPIS Food. IPIS Food is an international panel of experts on sustainable food systems. And Chantal, listening to all the speakers, starting with Alexandra and the other panelists, what are now your take on this panel? Do you think we are on the right track, or are there still points, would you say, coming from the stakeholders has to be changed? Chantal, please.
Sure, thank you for this question. As a keynote listener, I've been frantically writing this entire time. But can I just start by restating that we need to be clear that there is no 1.5-degree future without radically transforming away from our industrial food systems. And we're running out of time. And the way we get there is by building these just, resilient, diverse food and farming systems that many of our speakers have brought up today. And I think the 2 IPCC reports that were launched this year confirm that. And they specifically point to the potential of diverse agroecological systems to tackle climate, restore biodiversity, and secure resilient livelihoods. And so to the Commission, I would say, now is not the time to backtrack on commitments. We need a robust farm-to-fork strategy. We welcome the Green Deal. And at COP27, we need these robust climate commitments that deals with food and climate action together. I've spoken at length with colleagues from the EESC and with others about this need to let go of this false productivity narrative. And I think that's very important, especially in times of crisis. We have supply chain problems. We have distribution problems. And the way that we're farming today in a way that is input intensive, energy intensive, just cannot continue. That's not to say that productivity needs to be reduced, but there are so many other problems that we need to be tackling at the same time. I was just at an event with ICLEI, the city network, and I stole this plate from them. I don't know if you can see it, but that shows that if we had the right farm-to-fork strategy, we could be tackling all of the SDGs at the same time. So a robust farm-to-fork strategy could look like this. It could look like something that tackles all of the issues that we're facing together. I wanted to welcome the Commission's reminder, that we need systemic change. This was something that was mentioned, and that's really important to what we're doing. The question, of course, that we've been discussing is, how do we move fast? Can we move fast? Or do we need this kind of incremental change? And I think, honestly, the answer is both. We need to have this logical, well-sequenced, pragmatic transformation, but we can also start acting now on things, these kind of low-hanging fruit, as we call them. We've heard about progressive phase-out of chemical input use. We've heard about sustainable procurement. We've heard about things that can be done on food loss and waste. These are sort of easy measures that we could put in place right now. And I think with that solid basis, we can then think about more complex systemic issues like trade, like the socioeconomic systems that we want to have underpinning all of this. And as one of the speakers said, let's raise the bar and let's do this, quickly, but also over time. I also want to re-stress the point that was made on governance. We need real coherence and participation to do this properly, and that means including the voices of all farmers, of all farm and food workers, of researchers, advocacy, public institutions, etc. And we all need this equal power to be able to impact decision-making. I'm mindful of time, so I'll close quickly, but I just, again, wanted to make another plea to focus on the diversification of food and farming landscapes. The benefits of agroecological systems have been demonstrated, and I think there's a lot that we can do there. And of course, all the speakers spoke to the need to redirect subsidies. I keep citing this great UN FAO report, UNDP UNEP, that was released last year that said that 90% of global agricultural subsidies are going towards practices that harm people and the planet. 90%. So let's rethink our subsidy systems. I do want to maybe close by acknowledging that the EU is, quite a bit ahead of the rest of the global north, however, and I think we shouldn't forget that. We are thinking through these questions in ways that other places might not be so concretely and so quickly. So, let's provide real leadership here as the EU. Finally, I've spoken to so many people over the past week that are feeling deflated, that are feeling defeated by the slow-moving, sometimes not quite exclusive process that is the COP. So I think, let's tackle all of these issues within the COP, but also outside of it. all of the policy structures that we've been talking about today exist whether COP happens or not. So, let's take action, ambitious climate commitments, let's ensure there's climate finance, but also let's keep doing this work, on the day-to-day. And I think all of the speakers have spoken to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chantal. So on the last point, there is no alternative. We have to do it. Just do it. So, and we will, in the end of the day, I'm quite optimistic that we can do it if we do it together. Since we are civil society, I hand over now to Josep. Josep will give us the last word for this panel. Over to you, Josep. So do we have some technical problems with the...
No, it's okay, it's fine. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you all the panelists for this interesting meeting this morning. Well, in this COP27, the agriculture and agri-food system is the crucial moment. Of course, the climate crisis, the energy price, the war, the inflation, is the focus in the agriculture and agri-food system today is very clear. It's the time of decide. The agri-food system and the agriculture is responsible of the part of disaster, or is, maybe is my opinion, the compromise of solution. Of course, in this situation, our opinions of panelists is complementary, is very, very interesting for this. The solutions is maybe redesign the food systems. The Commission, the EU initiative is part of this redefinition, but only for the European Union or the world. These questions is maybe need work in the future, immediate future. The situation in Africa countries, in the South Europe for the no raining, not water, etc., is the change of systems of production. Agroecology is a possibility, of course. Technology is a solution, of course. Complementary, this discourse is possible. It's possible the farm to fork and the policy of the food systems for everybody and the level of price competitive is possible? Maybe. It's need on the wall the guarantee of the safety of the... But the new concept of food safety is not guarantee of only quality. It's guarantee of producer of the need of the whole population. And this question is very, very important at the moment. The intensification of the food crisis, especially in these areas, is need the mitigation and adoption of the new practices and the new technologies, of course. I need a structured engagement with all stakeholders and the whole proposal. The investment in research and technology is very, very important of the public sector, of course. And the private sector need ensuring the economic returns. That is not possible. This future is not possible. The revenues, the economic returns for the farmers, for the agri-food industry, and also the industry of the distribution. The food situation after the COP27 is crucial, is strategic maybe, and need the governance, the global governance, need the best opinion of the authorities, is need of the global strategies in the trade agreements, of course, and need, of course, note a speculation of the food, strategic food. Corn, rice, etc., is the situation of the crisis, the people is the war at the moment. Also, these products is out, maybe, is the end of the last opinion in the Economic and Social Committee, is the out of systems of speculation. Need systems of guarantee access of these basic products for the global population. Maybe that is a work in the European Economic and Social Committee, and more important in this scope is the presence of the young people. This new discussion, this new position, this new strategy is need defined with the young people of the world. What maybe that is the work in the European Economic and Social Committee. Our opinions is more balanced for the workers, for the employers, for the ONGs, etc. And maybe need the Commission and the Parliament today here in the European Union side events need the work in this direction, in the direction of the future of the agriculture, of the future of the agri-food industry. This sector is strategic, and this sector is compromised in the world strategies, biodiversity, and the first and the most important, and the good function of the supply chains in the agri-food system. Thank you very much for the today. And Peter, you close this.
Okay, thanks a lot,
pleasure.
Joseph. Thanks, Chantal. I would like to thank you all the panelists, also the technicians that you could make it here in this environment, and thanks to the Commission giving us the possibility to have this side event. Let me close with Chantal's point. Just do it, but with a just transition. Thanks a lot.